Hi everybody and welcome to the Dr. Psych Mom Show. Today I'm going to talk about sharing. And it seems like a strange topic because I usually talk about adults, although I do talk about parenting a lot of the time, not as much as I used to. But this is not about sharing with your kids, although I am going to touch on that actually. It's about sharing as adults. And people don't really think about sharing with their spouse and the impact of whether you do or do not share well, but that is what we're going to be talking about on today's episode. And before that, please do subscribe. I have about 220 subscriber episodes. 25% of my episodes are only for subscribers. So you get so many more, and I think it's well worth it. Obviously, I think that, but other people have also told me that it's well worth it to get the others. Okay, so what do I mean by sharing? Increasingly, I feel that our society, it encourages this massive self-centeredness. And I discussed this in my podcast episode, The Cult of Boundaries and Preferences, but it's even beyond that. It's to the point that the things that I've heard that people will not do, they range from sharing food to even watching the same television show, to kissing if somebody might be a little sick, to not ever going to eat somewhere that you don't want to eat, to having completely separate meals. I mean, it's crazy. It's kind of like, why even be married if you are not going to share your lives? And two people that are living in the same home but have completely separate lives, are they married? I don't know. It's like if a tree fell in the forest. Obviously, I've seen the less that people share other things, the less they are physically intimate. That is just a rule. If people cannot even watch the same TV show, they are usually not having sex, at least not after the original, honeymoon stage or like a young couple. When you can't share, you never sacrifice anything. And so you get increasingly more and more self-centered. It's like a vicious cycle and it feeds on itself. So let's say that you don't love what your partner's watching on TV, so you opt out and you watch something on your phone instead. Well, what you've learned is basically you've had a night where you had to give absolutely nothing and you were just able to bathe in dopamine from like plugging yourself into your phone and ingesting the exact type of stimulation that you wanted at that moment. If enough of those happen in a row, you just kind of become a jerk. It's kind of like kids. When kids get every single thing that they want and they're not taught to share ever, they become more and more spoiled and entitled. Well, so do adults. The way to go against this is, of course, to get outside your comfort zone and start giving and sharing and not picking everything based on exactly what you want to do, feel, eat, when you want to sleep, where you want to go, and instead act like hopefully you do with your children, which is you do more of what the other person wants to do. If you have two partners that are each doing more of what the other one wants to do, that is like, or at least has that philosophy. Obviously, mathematically, it would have to even out somehow. But the point is those people are happier. It's like the O. Henry story. It's like the gift of the Magi, right? So, and if not, Google that one if you don't know it. It was a classic. But point being, you get more and more self-centered, spoiled, and entitled the more that you're able to silo yourself into this sensory deprivation dopamine tank and like just literally consume in every way only what you want to consume and feel only what you want to feel, which is really stuff that I hear about more and more. People, they listen to different music. I mean, think about how different it is from years ago, right? If you wanted to listen to music years ago, you would put on a record, you put on a tape, and nobody's really clunking around with their Discman around the house that much. But, now everybody just listens to their own music on their AirPods, which you don't even know if they're wearing AirPods until you try to talk to them a lot of the time. They're listening to their own music. They're watching their own TV. They get their own individual notifications on their phone. If somebody called you years ago, then at least your husband would know, oh, your friend Jane called. What did you guys talk about? In fact, he would hear your side of the conversation because it was usually in the living room or in the shared bedroom. Now, he doesn't know what the hell you text to Jane about. He doesn't know if you've talked to Jane today. You probably don't tell him, because in any moment that you might want to talk to anybody, you can consume some more stimulating data or pleasure or something, and you don't even report. There's nothing to do you don't have to seek stimulation or enjoyment or pleasure from your social interaction in your home anymore, because it's really just from the phone. And now what's another extension of this? DoorDash. I have a lot of couples who like literally DoorDash their own meals. And they're like, oh, it's so great, we never fight. but why would you have to fight is the question. Why would cooking dinner have to be something that would be fought about? There is a range of things that people eat, and we could figure out which ones of them both of us would like. Everybody does not have to get exactly what they want at exactly the time that they want it. Because when you do that, you're a single person. You don't share. You're not sharing your life. You're not sacrificing even one little tiny bit of the exact pleasure that you want at that moment for the other person. You're not developing frustration tolerance. On the contrary, you are like sucking out. It's like leaking. Any frustration tolerance that you happen to have is leaking out with every single time that you choose to just do whatever the hell you want to do instead of sharing your life with someone else. Same thing with sex. Same thing with kissing. Same thing with touch. If people don't want to at exactly that moment, and let me tell you, it has to be a hell of a good type of touch to compensate for the heroin needle of just consuming whatever content you want whenever you want to. People are super addicted to their phones. They have the things that they're going to watch on TV lined up like for the whole day. In the morning, you know what you're going to come home and watch. You can watch anything in the whole world. So many people who are not in the honeymoon stage anymore where your hormones are in charge, but later in their marriages pick the TV, which is now doesn't have to be shared because you don't have a TV, you have individual phones. So they pick their phone content over sex, over cuddling, over talking, over anything. The night is just really two people on their phones until they pass out. And that is not a shared experience at all. Increasingly, there's less and less to talk about. You don't report what you watch on your phone because you're interrupting the other person watching or consuming their own content on their phone. And very, very few people even interrogate this. It's always thought to be only good. That people could get exactly what they wanted is, quote, good. But is it really? It doesn't seem to be. It seems to me that people are getting increasingly distant and disaffected. And there's so much data that people are having less sex, people are marrying later, people, even kids are like driving later. People would rather sit there in their individual siloed experience tank than actually sharing their life with other human beings. And that is really, really difficult to make your marriage work if you are obsessed with yourself in any way. But in this specific way, it's getting the exact sensory experience, like the curated, bespoke sensory experience that you want at any moment. So how can you counteract this? Well, why don't you try to watch the same TV? If you can't agree on it, big shit. You're the one listening to this podcast, so watch their thing. At least you would be next to them, and you might be able to talk about it. If you find yourself wanting to order your own meal, why don't y'all just cook and figure out something that everybody can eat from that? Also, it teaches the children to cook. I think there's going to be an entire generation kids that can't make even a sandwich because they're so used to only door dashing. And that's like a life skill that connects you with other generations across millennia, is making your own food. And this is increasingly lost. When people want to, if you as a couple want to do something at night instead of being on your phones, and maybe you don't want to watch TV, maybe you could play a game. How about that? A board game. That would be fun. Or you could do a crossword puzzle together, or you could just have a conversation. I have 100 date night questions on my website. I have had them there for over a decade. You can use one of those or anybody else's date night questions. The point is to have a shared experience instead of each individual doing exactly what they want. Kissing is another one, and it sounds like weird to put it in this bucket, but there are fewer people kissing that I see now than I did years ago. Many, many more people say that they never kiss as part of their marriage, and more people are also very germophobic, and I think that COVID, was very, very heightened that an extreme amount. So it was very destabilizing for people who started out a little bit germophobic. They got like massively germophobic, and that change has not really remitted. So there are fewer people that will even literally share their mouth with their partner or touch them, really. There is so much, you can only tap out at so much dopamine, right? And the amount of sitting there plugged into your little cocoon with exactly what you want to eat and exactly what you want to watch, that's like drugs. That is so much dopamine that why would you need any more? Why would you need to be touched? Why would you need sex? It's like what happens to men when they watch porn. A lot of them can't perform sexually anymore with their wife because why would they be able to? She's like a regular woman that looks like a regular woman, and they're used to like a harem of cavorting fantasy women, 1,000 that they could look at in a night. So of course their dopamine's all burnt out, their dopamine receptors, because of regular sex is never going to deliver that money shot. So in reality, the more times in a day, in a week, in a month that you can choose to undergo some frustration without immediately retreating into whatever your special curated experience is, and instead share an experience with your partner or your kids or your friends, then the better your life is going to get, the more rich and connected it's going to get. People watch TV and observe these rich, connected relationships between characters on a screen, but they do not give themselves the time, and they don't take the energy and the mindful, intentional effort to create those similar relationships for themselves. We got people that are sitting there like a family or a couple quietly, silently watching a romantic relationship develop on a screen. And that's in a best case scenario where they're both watching the damn thing together. In a more common scenario, you have like an individual that is consuming, the man is consuming porn. Basically, it's like he's watching people have sex. She's watching Outlander or something on her phone. And it's so sci-fi. It's like super Black Mirror or Twilight Zone that all these mirror neurons are being activated, and the person at the end of the evening, they kind of feel like they were in a relationship or like they had sex, but they didn't. It's empty because you didn't actually do it. You just watched people. It's like the difference between watching sports and playing sports. Playing sports, it gets your body moving, it clears your mind, you're engaging in exercise, right? Watching sports, you aren't doing those things, So sure, watching sports isn't bad, and watching your own thing on your phone isn't bad sometimes. But if it starts to encroach and to be the main thing and to edge out the real relationship experiences, that's when you have to say, what am I sharing with my partner versus what is unshared? What is just purely, I would have kind of the same life if I was completely alone. I would eat the same thing. I would watch the same thing. I would do the same thing. I would sleep the same way. I would not touch anybody. I would not have sex. I would not whatever they want to do. I would only do what I want to do. So what's the point of being together? And that is the question that you can reflect on and try to do these little frustration tolerance exercises where sometimes you do things you don't want to do. And you see, do I feel better? Do I feel closer? Do I even feel proud of myself for example, trying a different sort of food than my comfort food or watching a different sort of show? Did I learn anything from trying to find a movie that we would both like and then us talking about it instead of just saying, okay, well, you watch that and I'll watch this? All right, I hope you guys enjoyed this and it gave you some food for thought, and I will talk to y'all soon. Have a great day.